And now to some art. The figure of Jesus is not a popular symbol in Israeli art. However, our culture correspondent, Maya Margit, tackles this fascinating intersection where modern Jewish culture meets the Christian icon.
Forbidden fruit or an act of faith? At the heart of an exhibition at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, a larger-than-life statue of Jesus Christ. But this is no ordinary religious sculpture, and this is not a church. Here the Christian savior dons a Jewish skull cap and sidelocks. The sculpture was created in 1876 by the Russian Jewish artist Mark Antokolsky. It's just one of more than 150 artworks by 40 Jewish and Israeli artists, all part of an exhibition looking at how Jesus and Christian iconography came to play a major role in Zionist and Israeli art.
All treated Jesus in a very interesting way. On the one hand, as a symbol of Jewish suffering, of a way to bridge the gap between Christians and Jews. But on the other hand, in a very, very personal level, as a way of looking at your own anguish, your own physical or spiritual issues through looking at a figure that symbolizes the fight against the establishment.
European Jewish artists use the figure of Jesus as a symbol of persecution and as an instrument to challenge anti-Semitism. For early Zionists, the resurrection and birth of Jesus were linked to the birth of the Jewish state. But for contemporary Israeli artists, Jesus came to define collective sacrifice, like in this iconic picture by Adi Ness, inspired by Leonardo da Vinci's Last Supper.
When I shot these pictures, Israel was suffering from suicide bombing terror attacks, especially in restaurants. It's no coincidence that the Last Supper shows soldiers eating and implies that death is hovering nearby, because at the time there was always this feeling that you could be in the middle of eating and a terrorist could come and blow himself up.
For others, Christ was a symbol of the oppressed, as seen in this powerful photo by Misha Kirshner. Reminiscent of Renaissance paintings depicting Mary with the baby Jesus, this photo shows a Palestinian woman and her child in the Han Yunis refugee camp in 1988.
Different artists in different times use the image of Jesus as a symbol of the oppressed, and it can be the Jew, it can be the Bedouin, it can be a soldier, it can be a Palestinian, it can be any person who the artist would like to identify with.
Though Jesus' place in Jewish art is complex, the exhibition shows just how he means so many different things to different people. The figure of Christ remains a pervasive and monumental one that has transcended Christianity and become deeply embedded in the Jewish psyche.
Maya Margit is back with us again. Maya, Israeli artists or Israeli art, some of them are very political, but they're also very secular. How do they even choose to deal with such a topic like Jesus Christ?
It's quite interesting, you're right, that they would choose a figure like Jesus to deal with many different secular topics. But actually, I think what contemporary Israeli artists were telling me at the exhibition is that for them, Christ represents an anti-establishment figure. He's someone who protested against the establishment in biblical liturgy as well. And for them, they use him as a symbol of protest, as a symbol to protest against something. It could be anything. It could be oppression. It could be the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. It could be many different topics.
But do you see this as a certain provocation, maybe? Because, the Last Supper, this picture of Israeli IDF soldiers, portraying it, isn't it a provocation? Don't you see it this way?
I don't know if it's that specific image is very iconic. It's
by
maybe
Adi Ness, yeah.
By Adi Ness, yeah, the Last Supper. One of the most famous pictures maybe to come out of Israel, I think, in recent years. And it's done in such a way so that people viewing this, people from the West, will know exactly what it's referencing. They'll know exactly that he's referencing the Last Supper in this very iconic image. I'm not sure he's trying to be provocative. For him, it came out of this really personal experience during the First Intifada. He said basically that when he would go to restaurants, he kept thinking of terror attacks and bombings and things like that. So the idea of supper came to be associated with this might end up being a terror attack, there might be a bombing here in the restaurant, and it's kind of a sense of unease among Israelis at the time that he was trying to convey.
Was it a popular exhibition? I'm just asking, here in Israel, so many Jews, are they even interested in seeing such an exhibition?
I think it's a very original topic, and I think most Israelis are quite interested actually in seeing it. We saw many people going through the exhibition and looking at all the different artworks. Really major exhibition, over 100 artworks.
Oh, wow. So can we see maybe a trace of the dispute between Judaism and Christianity in those artworks, or is it only about, Christ and Christianity?
There's definitely commentary on the relationship between Judaism and Christianity, especially in the works by artists from like over 100 years ago. The ones who were commenting on anti-Semitism in Europe, they used Christ to show them that he was a Jewish figure, but were being persecuted.
Okay, Maya, thank you so much. And we have one last break for today, but you should stick around if you want to get to know the Afro-American Israelite community. Don't go anywhere.